with me. Let me ask him what are the top world headlines you are going to pick today to discuss, and we'll of course cover some other issues which is going to be headlines in Pakistan and Indian medias as well.
Thank you, Mr. Kanchan. Lovely afternoon to our viewers. First of all, I will bring you to two or three top global headlines today. The EU and the Arab diplomats in the West Bank's Jenin have come under gunfire, which was reported by the Israeli side. They were trying to choose a route which they shouldn't have, but these diplomats were facing Israeli gunfire, if I might clarify. Not just that, we've seen South African leader Cyril Ramaphosa meeting Donald Trump in the Oval Office. We've seen Donald Trump being a bit more lenient in comparison to when Zelensky had met Donald Trump in that very office. However, many of the issues regarding the bilateral ties between South Africa and America were discussed. In other news, the G7 finance ministers have had a 3-day meeting in Alberta, Canada. This was, of course, to discuss for a general consensus before hosting a larger summit in Canada next month. The G7 definitely includes Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, UK and the United States.
So these are the top headlines you picked from different sources. I also picked some news from ABC News 4, The Guardian and The Guardian 4 as well. The news is 2 Israeli embassy staff members were fatally shot outside the capital Jewish museum during a diplomatic event. The suspect, Elias Rodriguez, reportedly shouted Free Palestine, upon arrest. Authorities are treating the incident in a hate crime amid highlighted tensions over the Israel-Gaza conflict. My question is, Mr. Shamsul Alam Pantho, that Israel-Gaza conflict has crossed the border among the people's emotion, that why a armed forces like Israeli military is killing innocent women, children and innocent people in Gaza unnecessarily. So this tension has touched to Washington DC as well.
You have to see that there has already been the casualty that was reported by the UN, over 50,000 casualties. Lots of bloodshed has happened. Right now we see the repercussions of the Israeli aggression. They have aggressed themselves into the Palestinian lands and into the Gaza Strip over the last several months, and what that has done is an increased hatred from other countries. This definitely has a psychological impact. Once you think about it, to women dying, women being killed, children being killed, these are very oppressing issues. Not just that, it will have a very psychological impact in anyone who is following such a news. So once again, the Israeli administration, now they are facing various levels of threats like sanctions from the EU nations. And as you said in a breaking news just this morning, in Bangladesh, we heard that 2 were shot dead, 2 Israeli embassy official. Also in Washington, District of Columbia. So that's like the head place of America's administration. It really raises questions on foreigner security there.
Sir, over the breaking news you are talking about, I have another breaking news that Israel is reportedly preparing for a potential military strike on Iran's nuclear sites. I want to read the line again. Israel is reportedly preparing for a potential military strike on Iran's nuclear sites. This comes as US President Donald Trump pursues as diplomatic negotiation with Tehran, causing friction between the two allies. The Times has broken this news. Would you mind to say the dangerous aspects is going to be happening in Middle East between Iran and Israel?
Right now, the Iranians do plan on enriching uranium so that they can build such a nuclear weapon, and definitely that sets off balance with the White House officials. Definitely Donald Trump has said that they will never acquire a nuclear weapon. Of course, Israel and Iran, they go back quite a while. They did share some fire exchange a couple of months back earlier in the year. So I would see that we would try to check whether or not this story develops in the coming days. If there is a probable escalation between them, definitely it will be a concerning story in the upcoming days as well.
Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, we have got Ambassador Humayun Kabir, who is a very seasoned diplomat and has served in different capacities in the Bangladesh Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and last he was the ambassador in Washington DC for Bangladesh. He has just joined due to traffic situation in Dhaka. He was a little bit late. Sir, welcome to SATV studio, and it is our International Affairs special edition.
My apologies.
I just want to draw your attention that even yesterday we are hearing that Donald Trump made a phone call to Vladimir Putin and Volodymyr Zelensky to initiate a ceasefire or to end the combat war between these two countries. But right now I have a news from Wall Street Journal. In private discussion with European leaders, President Trump conveyed that Russian President Vladimir Putin is not ready to end the war with Ukraine. Despite this, Trump has refrained from imposing additional sanctions. So, is it a new dimensions in European situations? Somebody is trying to start to call that Russia-Ukraine will be the another chapter of Israel-Palestine. It's a long time war, long war.
I will not compare them, but definitely it's a complex challenge, because if you look at the European history, Russian question has vibrated over centuries in Europe. So, Russia always had a sense of insecurity, and they have a valid reason for that, because Napoleonic War took place on Russian soil. First World War took place on Russian soil, Second World War took place on Russian soil. So, they have seen the devastating impact of war, different wars. So, Russia is always very particular, or I would say not scared, but they are very attentive to any security threats. So, we are here now with regard to Ukraine. Russia feels that Ukraine is a kind of, you can say, bogey for West to challenge Russia, and Ukraine feels that I should be an independent country, and Ukraine has been an independent country since 1991 after the breakup of the then Soviet Union. Now, this is the challenge between the two sides. Russia doesn't feel that Ukraine should remain as an independent country, because it thinks that one day Russia could become a part of NATO. That means if Ukraine becomes a part of NATO, then Russian security would be endangered. And Ukraine believes that Russia doesn't want to allow it to survive as an independent state. So, it's a do or die situation. And President Trump has been trying to at least bring a ceasefire, and the proposal from his side was for a 30-day ceasefire. So, President Trump tried, but it looks like that Russia wants this 30-day ceasefire as a part of a larger deal, meaning that 30-day ceasefire, then the issue of their security should also be discussed, and obviously NATO would come into picture, and so on and so forth. So, he wants it as a piece of larger cake, if I may say so. Ukraine, on the other hand, thinks that this should be a starting point for peaceful resolution of this conflict, meaning that Russia should withdraw from the occupied Ukrainian territory, and eventually a peace treaty between Ukraine and Russia. So, this is the kind of gap that still survives.
So, sir, according to your statement, I find a huge canvas regarding the NATO, Russia and Ukraine.
Sure.
NATO has done one fault as per Vladimir Putin or Sergei Lavrov's statement, why Ukraine had the ambition to be the part of NATO. But before expressing the interest to be a part of NATO, Russia has invaded Crimea and occupied it in 3 days.
Yes.
Russia occupied Georgia in 6 days. My question is to you, why Russia is taking too much time to declare the end of this combat operation on a neighboring country, Ukraine? Why he is taking too much time?
Well, Russia, we must recall that Georgia, Ukraine was a part of Russian kind of, if I may say, empire after the Second World War, the communist world.
What
So-
we call Soviet.
Yeah, so at that time Soviet Union. So they have not been able to come out of that, I think, that frame of mind. They still believe that this country should be at least compliant to our interest. But now the problem is, all these countries, because they suffered under Russian occupation in a way, they want to come out of that and become allies with the West. And here is the problem. Any country trying to become an ally of the West, Russia tries to grab that country. So this is the challenge. And now I think if Russia wants to live with Europe or the United States peacefully, then it has to change its perspective. Likewise, I think NATO also needs to take into account what was agreed between Gorbachev and President Bush in 1990-91.
Senior Bush.
Yes, they agreed that Russia, the NATO would not move eastward, meaning that the constituent states of Russian or Soviet Empire or Soviet Union should act as a buffer. So they should not be part of NATO, nor they should be under the control of the then Soviet Union and now Russia. So that was the understanding reached between Gorbachev and Senior Bush.
Senior Bush.
But well, things have changed. NATO has come eastward, and Russia started feeling uneasy, and now they have become quite aggressive. But the point is that
Sir, you are a very seasoned diplomat, very senior diplomat. You have served in Washington DC. You have seen so many world leaders over there. Do you want to call it in one line that the complex is really complex here?
oh, it's a complex issue because it's a security, negative security perspective from both Ukraine and Russia, because Russia doesn't feel comfortable with an independent Ukraine, and Ukraine doesn't feel comfortable with a kind of assertive, if not aggressive, Russia.
Sir, when I'll be coming back to you, I will talk about India-Pakistan recent escalation, and in almost 72 hours, they came into an agreement for ceasefire. But after that, we are observing so many clashes between the two countries' political leaders' statements, military leaders' comments, and media outlets' fights. I will come back to you regarding that. I want to come to our international affairs commentator, Mr. Shamsul Alam Pantho. That is what Israel has intensively, aggressively doing attack on Palestinian, Gaza's people. Besides that, despite 90 truckloads to aid being dispatched into Gaza, residents report that no humanitarian assistance had reached them. The UN cites logistical challenges and restrictions and border crossings. It is a news from Washington Post, the Times of Israel, and Reuters as well. Do you have any comment on that? Why Benjamin Netanyahu is operating military aggression to Gaza's people, as well as he has stopped the border? He is not allowing the international aid to reach to the Gaza people. Why he is so cruel?
The international stage is shocked and taking action, but not much we can see that it's having an effect on Benjamin Netanyahu's Israel. Since March the 2nd, as you know, March was Ramadan this year. It's a time when Muslims gather together to have and to break fasts. It's a devotion to God. Not just that, during that time he had completely initiated a blockade of all kind of aid into that area, and not just that, we understand that this is a part of his heinousness. So definitely, as I answer your question, I can read out a headline: Israeli politicians blaming one another for shooting in Washington. It's a headline from Al Jazeera. So we can see that the world stage, they're slowly having a sort of allergic reaction. Benjamin Netanyahu has pushed it so far up into the soul of the Palestinians that this has now become very unfair and very unnecessary. As you know, Donald Trump has set a kind of world record this month. Earlier, he called for a ceasefire, and now there is a ceasefire, a possible ceasefire in the Ukraine-Russia war, a 30-day period. So I think global politics is changing with the US influence. EU is following suit. Definitely war is not beneficial, and it shall create a tougher year up in the 2026 until 30. Definitely they understand that kind of uncertainty, and that's why they are addressing almost every front line in order to halt such a firing of either each or other side.
Next part of the program we will definitely discuss why the lack of unity among the Arab leaders regarding this particular issue. As I said to for Ambassador Humayun Kabir, he is a very senior diplomat, that we will be talking about Pakistan ceasefire, Pakistan-India ceasefire, escalation and recent developments. We can see that there is no fight practically, logically or technically in the border areas between the two militaries, but there are some other developments. I want to just give you picks up some things. Pakistan has expelled an Indian High Commission staff member in a reciprocal move after India declared a Pakistani official persona non grata over alleged spying against India. This escalation follows a recent terror attack in Jammu and Kashmir and subsequent military actions, and within next 2 hours PM Modi is going to address to the nation, which is called post Operation Sindoor address from PM. What do you expect from his speech, and what is the things going on between two countries?
Oh, thank you. Well, I think both the states, Pakistan and India, are at a state of war, because Prime Minister Modi has said Sindoor is still on. So he has not said that India has stopped Operation Sindoor.
He used a word paused.
Yeah, so it means that they are at a state of war. For the time being, they are ceasing their fire, meaning that they are not firing at each other. So this is a very delicate kind of situation. Now you have mentioned war. This time, I mean, a few new elements we see. Number one is the massive use of social media and media. I mean, we have seen a couple of Pakistan-India war earlier, but this time it was very different. I mean, media actually in a way created the ground for actions from the Indian side, and likewise response from the other side. So media played, in my view, could have played a better or constructive role. So this is something we are seeing new, and I think the media is still feeding that kind of frenzy, and obviously the governments on both sides, they tend to respond to this media kind of stimulation, if I may. Another thing is the intensity of war was much higher this time. You know, the Indian side first attacked 9 in their view terrorist targets, and then as the war escalated, second, third day, they bombed in Pakistani airfields. Then Pakistani responded by attacking 29 destinations on the Indian side. So the intensity was quite deep, and I think that has really prompted the Americans, although the Indian side doesn't acknowledge or recognize the American contribution. But the fact is that the Americans, particularly the US Vice President, Secretary of State Rubio, Saudi Arabia, they were all involved in the process, because they realized that if this war is not stopped, that it might spiral outside or might go over control. So they wanted to stop it at a shortest possible time. And that's why you see the United States, if you recall, J.D. Vance, just before, I think on 11th of May, he said that we have got no business with this war. But the following day, he was the one who called Prime Minister Modi to tell that, well, we want this to stop, and he also called the Pakistani counterpart likewise. So I mean, this is, in my view, this is still at a serious level, and unless it is contained, nationalism on both sides.
That means South Asia is not yet out of danger.
Well, not yet, because the Sindoor is, according to Indian Prime Minister, Sindoor is still on.
Sir, just from curiosity of myself particularly, is it the right situation to promote a lieutenant general into field marshal? Because as per history says,
He is a general, by the way.
in 1948 they have got the last field marshal.
Cariappa.
In this escalation situation between two nuclear nations, Pakistan has promoted General Asif Munir into field marshal. Does it give any other signal that Pakistan is also preparing for huge retaliation?
Well, I wouldn't say that General Munir becoming field marshal will have an impact, but it will have an impact domestically, because you remember, we can recall that during the last 1.5 years in Pakistan, there was a tension between military and Imran Khan's party and so on and so forth. So, military felt defensive at that point. Now, military has come to the center again. Now they are again the power broker in Pakistan. So, that is one thing that military or this war has offered to the Pakistan military, and now the Imran Khan issue is on the back burner, not the front burner any longer. So, now Field Marshal Munir, but through his promotion, military has shown that we are in charge, and possibly down the line, who knows, he could go further.
Sir, I just want to give you two examples from history. When Field Marshal Ayub Khan took the charge, he ousted the democratic government in 9 months. When General Parvez Musharraf got the power in Pakistan, he ousted Nawaz Sharif government in 2 months.
Yeah.
In 2 months. So, General Asif Munir became the field marshal, and he became the in charge of all military activities, including the naval force and including the air force. I myself feel a dangerous move by the Pakistan weaker government by Shahbaz Sharif, which will impact internally, as you said, and externally also. We are expecting that this power will play with India as well. I want to come to our international affairs commentator, Mr. Shamsul Alam Pantho. That is, North Korea's warship launched ends in failure, and the world media is exposing that as a funny news. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un condemned a serious accident during the launch of a new warship, stating it severely damaged and dignity and pride of North Korean nation. BBC, CNN, Al Jazeera, Reuters, all are doing this news, and which Kim Jong-un is called by a rocket man by the US President Donald Trump. He says he is a young rocket man. What do you call? Is this a signal that North Korea is becoming weaker? Even they could not launch a warship properly. I am not talking about rocket, it is a warship.
Thank you, Mr. Kanchan. First of all, North Korea, better known as DPRK, definitely the leader is compared to other world leaders quite young in the field, but does have some kind of experience running ever so the throne after his father's ill demise. Not just that, this is one of those other nations that had US sanctions on them. As you see a pattern here, Iran is very well off on their own. They can develop their own weapons. Regional countries like Turkey and China can back them up really well. Similarly, in a pattern with North Korea, you'll see China's aid, direct aid with North Korea, and the kind of friendship Kim Jong-un has with Vladimir Putin as well. Each other has visited each other's territories, and definitely spoke about what they can do in the coming future, most definitely regarding military war zones and how each other can fix up or build and rebuild their military. Anyhow, when building or rebuilding your entire arsenal, you will figure that say every now and then you will have to face casualties or mishaps or accidents, such as the warship not being properly operational. So it's a progress to see.
Yeah, I want to go back to Ambassador Humayun Kabir, who has a very keen observation and a study on South Asian aspects. Sir, recently South Asia and the world has been experienced two nuclear nations, battlefield war, media war, cyber war, and the war of the statements of the political leaders. And recently you have heard that Modi government is trying to defame Congress regarding the supporting of war against Pakistan. But I want to let you remember one thing: when Atal Bihari Vajpayee, BJP Prime Minister, was in power, that time Sonia Gandhi was the opposition leader. In an interview, Sonia Gandhi says, if anything against the world, in terms of the world, the Congress will be beside Atal Bihari Vajpayee. But if there is anything internal India, the Congress will debate in the parliament, will protect the rights of the Indian people. But this time we see Modi is too aggressive to keep aside the opposition parties and opposition leaders in the subject.
Well, thank you, but I want to remind our viewers that Congress also supported Modi when he was about to launch the Operation Sindhu. So now that a lot of questions have been raised during 4 days of war, the Congress is raising those questions, and that's why I think these are unpleasant questions. Some of them are unpleasant. So Prime Minister Modi is not comfortable with that. But we must not also forget the fact that the whole Pakistan issue or the issue of terrorism is essentially geared to mastering domestic support or bolstering or gathering support at the domestic level. So this is an opportunity. If questions are raised, obviously Prime Minister Modi would like to be very irritated and try to corner the other side. But it's true that there are many unanswered questions. For example, the attack on Pahalgam. I mean, was there an investigation?
No.
Did government really know who were involved in that? Then under what circumstances the Indian planes, fighter planes, were shot at? What was the government, why government didn't publicly or acknowledge upfront, they just did it later. So there are a lot of questions that opposition, I mean the Congress party is raising. These are uncomfortable for the government and for any government, I would say. And since my sense is that, or many scholars or many observers are saying that the Modi government wanted to capitalize on this to strengthen their domestic support base. Now, if they face questions, that opportunity may not be easy to cash in on.
So there is a question raised that is Modi doing his politics or doing war to protect his politics into coming years, because this time his government is a coalition government. Anytime he can be fallen down in a very big problem, he may lose the prime ministership. So this is a big question mark. We want to go for a short break. We will be right back, dear ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, at International Affairs, SATV's special edition on international top headlines. We have a very distinguished panelist today, Ambassador Humayun Kabir, along with our international affairs commentator, Shamsul Alam Pantho. I just want to do a tough question to Ambassador Humayun Kabir because you have a long career on diplomacy. You see, if we look at the world leadership, we see the same leadership in last 2 decades. In China, there is a man, he's a man, but his name is Xi Jinping.
Right.
In America, Donald Trump has returned to White House. In China, in India, we see Modi 3rd terms. And in Russia, we see Vladimir Putin for almost 20 years. In Turkey, we see Recep Erdogan. And in Middle East, the same leadership. My question is, same leadership is running the world, but the different incidents are taking place. World is no more unipolar.
Yeah, no, thank you. It's a good question. Let me bring out few points here. Number one is, say 20 or 30 years back, we were at the height of globalization, meaning that it's a free world in terms of movement of capital, goods, services, people, and so on and so forth. So it was much more open world, and people are much more integrated in a way, or connected, if I may put it. But now for the last few years, what we are seeing is, now we are moving away from being or remaining global, rather we are now moving towards ourselves, to inward looking tendencies are now getting more attention. If I give you one example, look at Xi Jinping has been saying for the last at least 7-8 years, Chinese rejuvenation, meaning that he wants to build up China or revive the Chinese glory. If you look at the United States, Donald Trump, not this time, earlier time, America first.
He said he will make America great again.
Yes, MAGA. It means, let's look at America or look at the United States. I never bother about what is happening in the outside world. Look at India, Atmanirbharshil India, meaning that we want to make in India. So that's inward looking attitude. So we are seeing that we are moving away from global openness to a kind of inward lookingness among the major players or stakeholders at the global level. So that's one trend, and same leader, but their modus operandi is now changing. So that's one point. The second point is, as a result of their…
Don't you want to say anything about Vladimir Putin and his
same thing. Second thing is, as a result of their political narrative, a kind of radical nationalism is now growing in all these countries. United States, China, India, we have seen Myanmar,
right,
Russia. So all these countries are becoming more nationalistic, and the nationalism is not only national, it is becoming slightly radical. So that is a problem part, because when nationalism turns radical, that can create chauvinism, that can create other problems down the line. And there is a tendency parallelly to securitize everything. Today we look at the world from geopolitical angle more than economic opportunity angle. And that's why you can see President Trump putting tariff against China. And if you look at, I was surprised to see on 8th of this month, US and UK signed a trade agreement. There is a called security, one clause in that agreement, the economic security clause. The essence of that clause is, both the countries agreed not to allow, in a way, not saying or by naming that, not to allow any opportunity with regard to China, meaning that China shouldn't get in, UK shouldn't work with China. So economic security means US can veto any Chinese involvement or trade with the United Kingdom. So it means you can see that geopolitics is now taking precedence over other issues. The last point, economic wars are now growing. President Trump's tariff. It means what? He is telling the world that we don't need to do trade with you. Or if you want to do it, you will have to do it on my terms. So it means that we are seeing economic nationalism is growing. If President Trump has given tariff on Canada or Mexico, they have done the same thing for the US. US has given 145% on Chinese products, China has given 125. It means
Trump over Trump.
And it means that they don't want to do trade, literally with 145% and 125%. It means it's an embargo. Normal trade cannot go like that. So we are seeing that economic wars are rising, and for countries like us, which is the net beneficiary of the openness of market, globalization, for us is a bad news. Because if we see the walls all around, then where do we go? Because we get benefit out of getting access to those markets, bigger markets, such as European Union, US, China, Japan. Right. So if all those markets are shielded, protected by tariffs or other non-tariff
very important topics, sir, you raised. I was watching that our international affairs commentator was noting down from your speech. I think he had something to supplement or debate. I exactly don't know, but sir, I think you have something to tell about Ambassador Humayun Kabir's speech.
I do agree with Ambassador Humayun Kabir on the issues he was saying, how Donald Trump had initially started with this tariff war, and that the entire world is now focusing on an inward approach rather than an outward approach. It most definitely can be seen in the last 5 months policy making. Also, apart from that, we see in major decision making such as calling for a ceasefire between a war front, you see America is following their timeline, EU is following America. It's very well established. If you follow the news every day, you'll reassess that their foreign policies are almost similar in tackling the global situation. Not just that, historically, there was a time when certain empires would stand up in the face of discrimination, and then when they were glorious, they would have lost their empire, and a new empire would take place. And that such has happened over the years, the last being the British Empire, the colonialism, right. So when that took place 300 to 400 years, much of the world was controlled by them. And we've seen how over the years the Commonwealth nations have divided up into their own sovereign lands. Democracy became the way forward for many places, even though that is an ideology from Westminster style parliament.
Very well said. I want to draw Ambassador Humayun Kabir's attention on Donald Trump's legacy, administration, foreign policy. Because right this moment I have received news from ABC News and The Independent and Google also focusing this news. The US judge stated that Trump officials could face criminal contempt charges for violating a court order by deporting individuals in South Sudan, a nation experiencing ongoing conflict. My question would be, yesterday he has been criticized. I mean, Donald Trump has been criticized by his own Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, for his foreign policy. Now, court is also interfering in his deporting policy. Do you think that Donald Trump's administration will be smooth inside the country, within the Americans?
Thank you. I think for the next 2 years' time, he is okay until the next Congress election in 2026, because if you look at I would say you mentioned about the court, but there is also his kind of supporters base. So I think in the US now there is a climate where bulk of the American people believe that the foreigners should go. That's why they gave votes to President Trump. So whatever the court might say, and court has already suspended 1 or 2 decisions, but the whole policy is still in operation. So, the Trump administration is removing people almost regularly. 1 or 2 cases or 3 cases go to the court and then they decide. But my gut feeling is, whatever I could read, is there is a general support from his I would say supporters base. So, that might continue. On the foreign policy side, what you said is a mixed picture, I would say. President Trump, his initial support to Israel sounded little negative, but his recent visit to Saudi Arabia, Qatar and UAE gives some positive impression also, because number one, as has been told earlier, that he didn't visit Israel this time. So, this is a signal to Israel and it reflects his dissatisfaction with the Israeli leadership, number one. And earlier he also had a ceasefire with the Houthis in Yemen,
Right, sir.
without involving Netanyahu or Israeli leader. And he initiated discussion on nuclear issue with Iran, which has run into difficulty, but I saw just few minutes back that Oman has arranged next meeting. So, there is some difficulty there, but still they are meeting again for the 4th time. But my sense is that President Trump is trying to create his legacy. Domestically, he is responding to his voters, his supporters group, but externally or in the foreign domain, he is perhaps trying to create an image of a peacemaker. Now, that is being challenged, or a test of that will come. How does he handle Iran issue?
Sir, one more interesting question I want to do. Many times we see that our audience want to know that Israel is a small state. Israel is fighting in different fronts with Hezbollah in Lebanon, Houthis in Yemen and Hamas in Palestine. Without the direct weaponized support and financial support of United States of America, do you think that Israel can sustain even 30 days if Iran take serious action on this? Because Iran is backing all these H blocks, I mean Houthis, Hezbollah, Hamas. So, if Washington pull out its support to Israel, Israel will not sustain.
It's true, you are right, because Israel is dependent on the United States for financial support, for military support, for technology support, for diplomatic support as well. But another fact also remains, that Israel is a good fighting force, and they have decimated practically all the Iranians' support structures such as Hamas, Houthis, Hezbollah. So, they have received a good beating, I would say. Now, the worry is that Israel might directly attack Iran, particularly on its nuclear establishment. If that is done, I don't know, then it could be an open game, and then nobody knows exactly how Iran is going to respond. I am sure it would be a devastation, but that is why I think President Trump avoided Israel this time to send him a message. Yesterday, the European Union has imposed some kind of sanction against Israel. Maybe they may have some intelligence that Israel is trying to do something, and in order to just prevent that, European Union.
Sir, what are you saying? What are you saying? The Jerusalem Times already given a news that Israel is reportedly preparing for a potential military strike on Iran's nuclear establishment. What you are saying? This, yes, it is correct. Already news has come. This comes a US president. The US president pursues diplomatic negotiations with Tehran, causing friction between the two allies. Yes, your perception is correct and already has come into news. My question is, do you think Israel has the guts to directly go for a confrontation with Tehran?
Here I must say that next Saturday, I think US and Iran would sit down for the next round of discussion.
5 rounds.
If President Trump wants to prevent Israel from attacking, then Iran and US will agree on a deal. If that deal is done,
Israel will be helpless.
Israel would be out of the scene. Yeah. If that deal fails, now here both the parties will have to play their cards very carefully, both Iran and US. If that deal goes down or it does not work out, then Israel might take that initiative. So, that could be a disaster for the whole Middle East.
Yeah, very well ascribed. I want to draw one interesting news from an Indian top media outlet that the Enforcement Directorate, which we call ED, has accused Sonia Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi for money laundering in the National Herald case. A Delhi court has ordered that the charge sheet be shared with BJP leader Subramaniam Swamy. I want to hear something from Shamsul Alam Pantho regarding this, because it is a political game.
Most definitely, it's an accusation, accusal, if you would say. Both they were. It's quite funny, actually, cheating, money laundering in the National Herald case. Definitely. They are a political family. From what I know, Rahul Gandhi has faced a lot of discrimination in his own parliament previously. But as of now, there is general consensus that he is a household name in Indian politics. Most definitely, we'll see whether or not what kind of allegation comes out later between this money laundering case. Definitely, it's attack on their kind of motion that they held earlier. We will see what kind of information we get on this global issue, or say Indian regional issue.
Sir, I want to get the last comment from you, that what do you think, the Bangladesh chief advisor, he is a well respected worldwide, is a well known Nobel laureate. But so many things is going around the world, and what should be Bangladesh's position according to the statements and according to the initiatives? What Bangladesh can take this position?
On what? Any particular issue?
Like China, with China's steps and Russia's steps. India is provoking us.
Well, we want to have the global peace, because the peaceful environment will give us the opportunity to do what we consider as our national interest, to promote our national interest, do trade, invite investment, send more people for work outside so that we can get more remittance. So, our preference is for a peaceful world. So, I think Bangladesh as a country, for our national interest, we should always not only aspire a peaceful world, but we should also continue to work towards building up that peaceful world. And wherever we can do, in whichever way, such as the peacekeeping participation in the UN peacekeeping and others, and if possible, maybe down the line we could also peace building efforts we can participate, because Bangladesh already has earned some good name in terms of peacekeeping. We need to graduate perhaps to peace building, and if possible we should also look and try to do that.
And we have
our neighborhood as well.
We have a Nobel laureate in the position.
Definitely,
right
he is an asset, and I mean, he is a well respected person all around the world. So, this is something that we can always build up.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for your contribution to SATV. Ambassador Humayun Kabir, very learned person. I personally have great respect on his knowledge and wisdom. I also want to give a good thanks, strong thanks to my international affairs commentator Shamsul Alam Pantho. Before I conclude, ladies and gentlemen, I want to say today is 22nd May, International Day of Biological Diversity, under the theme Harmony with Nature and Sustainable Development, highlights how this planet can work more, how we can keep this planet more cool. And two more things I want to add. In next month, Bangladesh cricket team is supposed to visit Pakistan for a 3-test match, 2 one-day match. In this stage of Pakistan-India tensions, should Bangladesh team continue the planning to go to Islamabad for playing cricket with Pakistan? Is that the mood? Is that the time? This question for the policymakers. And I want to say a huge happy birthday to tennis sensation in the world, Novak Djokovic. Today is his birthday. Thank you very much. I will see you tomorrow.